Today I'm kind of just gonna walk through how I use Magic Bullet and things I usually start with and build on. So you don't really want to just like copy the settings I'm about to put on, because every clip is different, every anime is different, etc., etc. So just kind of use this as a foundation if you're just getting started with Magic Bullet. This is kind of what this is for. So I'm going to hop into the new comp and show you guys what I usually do. Alright, so here we are in our raw comp. I'm just going to play this for you so you can see what it looks like with no CC on it. I'm gonna go ahead and put an adjustment layer over this whole thing, and then I'm gonna throw looks on there and try to get a consistent look first, and then I'll cut up the adjustment layer in certain parts to make other scenes pop out. So let's go ahead and start out with that. Alright, so let's go ahead and hit Control Alt Y to add an adjustment layer, and then I'm going to press enter, and I'm gonna name it looks just because I like doing that. It makes everything a little bit more organized. So now let's go to our effects and presets and type in looks, double click it. So now we got looks on our adjustment layer, and let's click edit. Okay, so now as you can see, I've got this thing called scopes. You can press S to show that, to close it. If you want to see that, there's all these different types of graphs that'll show you the colors that you're working with and the values of different properties. So you don't, I don't usually pay too much attention to these. I usually just keep this one open so I can see how much red, green, and blue is in the final product. So that's how I'm gonna leave it. Let me make this bigger. There we go. And then you can change the source right here, but I don't usually mess with that. It's kind of damaging to the footage, so I don't mess with that there. But first thing I'm gonna start with is subject. You usually want to start here. So let me press T to show the effects, or well, tools, and then I'm going to start with this effect called shadows and highlights. Go ahead and drag that in there. Press T to close the tools window, and then now we have these values that we can work with. What I usually do, I usually start with the shadows negative, just bring that down a little bit. It's kind of like contrast, but it isn't. It's making the darker colors darker. So I just put that almost all the way down to -1. Let's go and throw that there. And then the highlights, I usually turn up just a little bit. So that should be enough for our shadows and highlights. And then after that, I actually jump all the way down to post, and then let's press T to open that up. And we're about to use my favorite effect in all of Magic Bullet, which is Mojo. This is a very, very, very powerful effect that you can do a lot with. So just throwing it on there, you can see what that does already. It adds all different types of color and accents to everything. So let's go and look in these settings and see what we want to change. Okay, so first setting that we're going to change here is the Mojo setting. I usually don't like this number too high, but I'm just going to crank it up so you can see what it does real quick, up to 200% and down to 0. I'm going to put it around in the 20s, should be good. And I'm going to turn my punch up some and the bleach down. Right about there, I think, -90. Keep in mind, this is going to be different depending on what scene you're using, so don't copy these settings. Fade is going to add exactly what it sounds like, kind of like a whiteness. I'm not going to use that this time, but I do use that quite a bit. So I'm keeping it on 0 this time though. Skin squeeze, I usually put that down to 0. I usually leave the blue squeeze where it's at. Exposure can stay the same. Cool, warm, green, magenta, and skin color is usually the same. If I do change something in here, it's usually the skin color, but I'm gonna leave that the same for right now. So next thing I'm gonna add is a edge softness, which is right here in lens settings. So this tool is going to add kind of a blur around our edges, and you can adjust the size and the spread using the radius and spread settings right there. And then I usually change the quality up to 10, and then when you do that, you're gonna need the blur size to be higher. So I'm gonna turn that up to like around 20. And I like it to be aspect a little bit, where it's more wider and around the sides. And then let me turn the spread down a little bit, right about there. And then also in the lens, tools, I'm going to add a haze flare, which is something this is probably my favorite thing to add in Magic Bullet, is haze flare. and you can change the color of it. I usually do like this and look at the different colors, see what they're going to look like in the final product. And then I think for this one I'm going to use like a pink here, because I think that matches the scene pretty well. And the softness I usually turn down, and the spillage up some. And then here's the important part, is the exposure. So the exposure and the reflection exposure, you can kind of think of it as the left and right sides, sort of. Not really, but it usually ends up being like that. So I'm gonna turn the reflection exposure down. See, it does do both sides, but you'll see what I mean by left and right. And the exposure, I'm gonna turn up just a little bit, so it's at 0.3, and I think that's good. So let's go ahead and hop out and see what we did so far. Hit the check mark, and then you can go ahead and scrub through here and see what we changed. So some of these shots look okay, and the other ones look way too strong. Like this is way too strong. This looks alright, and way too strong again. This is acceptable, but I think it's still too bright. So we're going to start cutting this up and doing individual scenes. So let's go to this one first. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-D to cut our adjustment layer. I did that in the wrong spot. Hold on. Control-Z. Go page down. Control-Shift-D right there. Okay. So let's do this one first. So I'm going to go into our settings, and I'm going to turn our haze flare settings down. So our exposure is too high, I think. Yeah, let's turn that down, and I'm actually going to turn the reach up, because it kind of keeps it smoother. Like it'll reach further, but it won't be as strong. So I think that's okay for right now. Alright. And then I'm gonna go to, I think this scene is alright, and this one's too strong, so let's go right here and Control-Shift-D. And then I'm actually gonna cut this again before I change this, so that it doesn't change this part too. So Control-Shift-D, and then now I'm gonna change this one. So here I actually want the haze flare to be a lot softer, so let's increase the softness and the spillage down, so like the amount that it's spilling, and the reach higher, so it's kind of reaching all the way across there, and I think that's okay for right now. Alright, and then next we're gonna do is this one, which I actually changed a few things in this shot here. So let me isolate this adjustment layer as well. Right there. Control-Shift-D. Okay. So this one, I actually added another tool in post. So let's press T, and this one is called LUT. Not really sure what it stands for, but I like it. So in LUT you have a preset and LUT settings. So I don't touch this because obviously you need to make a preset. I don't make presets really. So in LUT I put on subtle preset right there, and then I think I had it. Did I have before or after the mojo? It was after. So it kind of, with this shot in particular anyway, it kind of added almost like a faded background, and then she kind of like pops out into the scene. So I like that. I think that's alright for that one. And I think this one was too strong as well, so I'm actually just going to copy these looks, Control-C, go to this adjustment layer, and Control-V. Okay. I think that's about all I want to change here. Maybe these haze flares is too many lines here, so I'm going to go in here and change the exposure. Or not the exposure, the spillage, excuse me. So it's not as many. I think that's about it. Let me double check the other comp, see if there's anything else I added or forgot. But I think that's it. I did add a vignette. Okay, I'll show you that real quick. But yeah, basically what I showed you is all that I really do to do all my videos. Just those few things. I'm gonna go ahead and add a vignette, which you don't have to do. Put this on top. I just do every once in a while on certain shots because I think it looks kind of nice. That's all you got to do there. Just turn this value shrinks the lens, and then the amount like makes it like darker or lighter, and I always do darker. So that's pretty much it. Let me just play this through. You basically just play with those settings and find stuff that you like, and obviously you can make presets if you want. I'm going to show you how to do that actually. Let's go ahead and make sure this is selected. Say you wanted to keep this preset. You go up to animation, save animation preset, and then just name it. Let's just call it, I don't know, LUT. Save, and that's it. And then when you go to your effects and presets, you can go type in the name, LUT, user presets, and it's right there. So watch, you just go like this. You can drag it on or double click it, whatever, and then it's back on there. So that's really all for this tutorial. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed. I will do more magic bullet, so this isn't it. This is kind of just like the basics and how to get started. So yeah, just